Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning. 15 minutes to change our lives. Kuntres from the Rebbe Ashab. So we're in the first Maimer, Parak, base. It's basically just a quick Chazara, and I'm going to try to not run through it. I realize to finish a whole Parak in 15 minutes is not necessarily so practical. Anyway, so we said in yesterday's Parak, yesterday's class, that shittim comes from the word of, there's two definitions. One is shtus, one is turning. Ishta, turning aside, and really they go together. And it basically means, in simple term, the Yetzer Hara that gets you to do things that are foolish and turns you away from the proper path of truth. And even worse, as we said, that then he comes to you, and then he comes and tries to get you in trouble for what you did. He tells you what to do wrong. The Yetzer Hara comes, tells us what to do wrong, and then they get us in trouble for it. And this is a big issue. So now today we're going to discuss there's different levels of pleasure. And today we're going to, in Parak Beis, it discusses 3 levels, and Parak Daled is going to discuss the 4th level. And just another preface, heads up that, and this is an important understanding, that the Rebbe Ashab, he uses very harsh language sometimes. It's very straight and direct. And our generation, we're not so used to it. But it's not that he's coming to belittle us or put us down and make us think we're nobodies, but it's the frustration that he has because we're so great. It's like the saying, I'm not afraid when I go to Shemayim, I will feel like how not much I achieved, more than I'm afraid that I'm gonna see how much I could have achieved. And I think the challenge is that we have greatness within us. We all do in our own ways, and it's a challenge to reveal it. And Yetzer Hara come getting us. And this is what the Rebbe Ashab is trying to help us achieve, greatness. Parak Beis, and in truth, this whole idea that we talked about, this shtus and the klippa and the Yetzer Hara, it's a big shtus, big folly. And going after Dvarim, like we said yesterday, going after Dvarim Gashmim, physical things just for physical pleasure's sake, and no ulterior positive motive. So the Rebbe Ashab is saying that we are the traceless of creations. The whole world is created for us, and that's what we're doing. And this is a way to get the Yetzer Hara. Meaning, you tell Yetzer Hara, I'm going to do this. You know who I am? I'm a chassid. I'm a yid. I'm the trace of creation, and I'm going to go and care about these things. And when we have a struggle with certain things, this is one of the ways to get over the struggle. Instead of saying, "Oh, it's so hard, but I like it so much," how do I stop? It's so difficult. You have to remind yourself who you are. I'm not this person struggling. It's like Chassidus' approach. I'm not saying this, in speak to your mashpia or whatever, a counselor, therapist, but a person that has like an addiction problem. So one of the things they do is say, I'm an addict. But what we're saying here is you have to say, I'm not an addict. I'm an nefesh elokis. I'm the choice of creation. I was here to bring Messiah. So how you talking? How is it possible I'm going to do such a thing? It's below my dignity. And when you do this, you transform the perspective. You're not like, so to speak, down looking up, but you're up looking down. Even though you have the same situation, same struggle with the struggle, but your way you approach it from a different way. And if we do this to ourselves, it'll get you out of it without having to fight yourself out of it. It'll elevate you to a place where this is not even a struggle anymore. And of course, there's caveats to this, and it's not a general rule, but the idea for sure is true, and it helps. And I've seen in my own life, it really has a good effect. Because there's different types of pleasure. Like good food, or maslik, or like sweet or savory foods. that pleasure is the most baseline, simplistic pleasure. Meaning it feels good, it tastes good, but that's not true pleasure. There's deeper levels of pleasure. And this is in general, not just the food, but physical pleasure that we get from bodily pleasures. I don't know, going swimming or just feeling good physically in your body. This is literally a physical pleasure. This is animalistic pleasure. Like if you just imagine like what makes a dog feel good and an animal feel good, and those pleasure we have, if that's where it stops without any ulterior motive, it's the same level. By nature of an animal just goes after what it desires, what it feels good. It doesn't know any better, doesn't have any like higher ideals, like learning and thinking. It just whatever feels good, and it does. Yeah. It knows this good, that's what it goes after. Now, that's the lowest level of pleasure. And you know, we think to ourselves, I remember when I learned this a few times, and it's years ago. I learned this, and it was hard for me to connect like that. I'm like, that's like that's the pleasure that I get. You're talking like there's high levels of pleasure, like I don't really connect to them. But one of the parts we're going to do is we're going to realize that this is a truth, and we just have to tap into it, and we can get there. So that's the lowest level. So my is in a high level pleasure. It's like a beautiful song, a beautiful voice. Which is much more of a spiritual thing. It's not a physical. You know, and just think about it logically. Like when you hear something, it gets you, or you hear like an emotional song, it gets you. It's not a physical, like food. It's physical. You know, you get a massage. It's physical. Here, it's more deep and more spiritual. And then you have a highness. Then there's emotional things, like doing good, or doing something kind to someone. That feels much better. That's a much better, and we can all try this. You know, you eat something that you like, tastes good, and then you do a favor for someone, like a real favor. It's a much deeper type of pleasure, enjoyment. And you also listen to music, and you see the difference. You can tell, and you'll see the differences that it affects within us. For the good person that's doing the kindness, it's very awesome, and it feels really great. There's a lot of levels in this. Why? Because so now there's also a problem when you're doing something kind. Because if you're doing something kind just because that's your nature, and you're not even thinking about the other person, you're not connecting with the person, and you're not recognizing whether it's a good thing or not. Meaning, God forbid, a person that's a drug addict that's coming to you, and you can tell, and they go, "I just need $3 more," and you realize that $3 more is going to help them buy drugs, which are going to put them in a worse situation. So there's two ways of doing it. One is it feels good when I help. I help. I don't think about the person. That's unhealthy, and that's what we're going to discuss as well. But the healthy way is using also our intellect in this. So it's meaning in the pleasure of an emotional thing, meaning of being kind. For example, there's different levels of it. There's the animal, as we're going to discuss, we'll see. I know he does chesed and kindness to whoever comes. They're charitable. You come and I'll give you. It doesn't matter what you cause, what's going on. It feels good for them to give, and that's why they give. And they have no inner intent in the good they do. So therefore, that pleasure is also a kind of animalistic pleasure, because they're not thinking about who deserves, how much they should be giving, what's going on, and it could be the most negative thing. It's a sad thing, but like we said before, you could be giving to a person the worst thing that is the worst thing for them, and you're giving it. So therefore, when you give, even though it's a high level, it could be not necessarily the higher level. Shehu, his gabrus, Avativi. Oh yeah. Which is the overcoming of the natural love. Okay, like it's known, an animal naturally, generally doesn't have intellect, has emotions, and does things emotionally. So it emotionally likes doing these things, and that's what it does. So it could be very positive, but it could also be very negative. Therefore, when a person gets enjoyment out of doing kindness or having his emotions involved, but without using their intellect, thinking to themselves, is this the best thing to do? Like he uses the example, like a kid sitting there, he wants a knife, and she take away from him. The kid cried, I want a knife. So, I want to be kind. So you give him the knife. Of course, that's the dumbest thing you could ever do. That's why it's important to have the seichel. So therefore, if you just give without thinking, without using your intellect and figuring out if this is the best thing or not, so then that's like an animal. Everything you have to do have to be intellect to think about it. And this is a very important point. To think, am I doing the right thing or not? And what am I doing? A lot of time we go through our day just living life. But the point here is to think, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? So the better version of it is like when you're doing kindness, you're differentiating between what's good and what's not good. Sometimes you have to give to a person kindness, even though they're not deserving of it. But you realize this is the best thing. Because the benefit that's going to come from this will be great. Like Avram, like we talk about in this week's parasha on Avram. What did he do? He would give food and drink to all the passers-by. And the intent of him giving them the food is to give them the opportunity to recognize God and to bring him close to God. So he wasn't just he was kind, and because Aaron was a very kind person. It wasn't just that I'm a kind person, just give to whoever. But he had seichel in it. He had thought. He figured out, hey, I can give people food. I can also get them connected to Hashem. That's a deeper level of kindness. Okay, this so Gemara, like it says in Seita, Al pas levikar Hashem Mishem Avayei Keleilam. So literally the pasuk reads Vikar Hashem, and he called over there in the name of Hashem, the God of the world. So Amar Shlakesh says, Al Tikra Vayikra Ela Vayakra. You don't say that he called out, but Vayakra, he caused others to call out. Limei Abriya Likrei Sham B'Shem Avayei Keleilam. And Rashi explains what it means. He got those people that came past to his inn and to his eshel to have food. They got them to call out Hashem. So how did he do it? Shehikri Avram Avinu Lishmosh Al Kodesh Baruch Hu B'fi Kol Oiver V'Shav. In front of everyone that came and sat, he got them to call out Hashem. Ketzad, so how did he do this? After they ate and drank, they said to give thanks to Avram. Avram, thank you so much. The food was beautiful. So fun having you there. Feels amazing. So Amar Lahem, he said to them, you eating my food? You made God's food. So you have to thank God. Don't thank me. Thank the one who made all the food. God. And they were like, God, this is God's business. So what did he do? And this was his whole purpose. It wasn't just because Avram's a kind guy. I'm a kind person. That's what I do. And I have to give people. But he used his seichel. And this is what he's teaching us, that we have to try to elevate ourselves to not do the thing just naturally, even when nature is in a good setting, like the example here of kindness. I naturally like to help people, but you have to use your intellect to recognize, is the help that I'm doing a good in the positive in this sense or not positive? He wanted to bring people closer to our God. Of Medrash Rabbah, and it says in the Medrash, Isam Avram Hayu Makabos HaOivrim Es HaSavim Mishahayu Oichlim Mishasu Amalhem. And we'll just go finish it off. And he would have them when they ate and drank. Amalhem, he says, Baruch Amruloi Ma Neima. He said, bless Hashem. He said, what should we say? So Amalhem Amru say, Baruch Kel Elam Shechal Mishloim. Bless Hashem that you ate from him. The God of the world ate from him. Im Mekabel Allah Baruch Hu Have Achil V'Shasiv Azal. Now, if they would bless Hashem, so that was all good. They could go eat, no problems. But they love having Mekabel Alei Uvarech Have Yamar. So if they weren't going to bless Hashem, so would say to them, Have Mad Allah Amar Ma Islach Alive Have Amalei Chad Kist. So he said, you don't want to bless them, that's fine, you just pay for me. Perush He'aruch Kli Shalcheres, give me the vessels that I used. You know, I have these earthenware vessels or metal pots and pans. You have to pay. Oi matachis, oi machal davar matan. Yeah, matna is different types of things. Kahuna, Matas Kahuna explains this. The chamar yain gave him wine. Biyud peilarin. He said wine is a 10 peilarin. You know, probably very expensive. Min tabaz is like type of coin. Matas Kahuna. Bechad litra the kaifa, and you had meat. That's another 10 litra. Biyud peilarin, another 10 peilarin. Bechad igula the rivsa, and you had some bread. Biyud peilarin with another 10. You know, so suddenly they see this bill is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Manya havlach hamrav mother. He said, who's going to give you all this food and bread in the desert? You know, you're in this hotel over here, a 5-star hotel in the random middle of the desert. Manya havlacha kupa b'midbaram. Manya havlach igula b'midbaram. I would give you all this food, the wine and the bread. Whoever got in the desert, wine, meat, and bread. Min dehave chame hahim akta dehave akele mishahaya roya hayreya hatzara hahi shahaya meteloi. When he realized all this problem that he's having over here, like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to pay for all this. So Haya have Amar Baruch Kaleilam Shechal Mishaloi. They said, you know what? We'll bless Hashem. Okay, thank you, Hashem. Beautiful, beautiful. And then they have to pay for that bill. And the main point that he's bringing out here, all our emotions and the things that we do have to use some seichel. See, does this make sense for me to be doing? You know, when you're staying up late or you're scrolling on whatever it is, never ending, stop for a second and say, is this befitting of me? I'm in the traces of creation. Should I be doing this? And this is, you know, but it feels good or whatever it is. And we have to say, well, but life is not just about feeling good. It's about above this. There's deeper pleasures. They're more sophisticated. I'm more sophisticated than this, and I should be higher than this. Kitzer, Batay Nugim, Yesh Seidev Adraga. In pleasure, there's levels. And there's higher forms of pleasure. Hatay Nug, there's pleasure in food, Arev, that's tasty, Vademer. There's pleasure of the body, which is a lower level. It's more animalistic type of pleasure. Then you have like a beautiful voice, music, more spiritual. Then you have the pleasure of your emotions, of acting in kind ways, or different types of emotions, but according to our intellect. Lehetiv laharoi, to good for someone that's fitting, lefamim gam lebiltur, and sometimes someone even that's not fitting, in order that good can come out of it. L'shah mipnei te'elas haba, yeah, for that time period, in order that something good will come out of it. So, mentioned by all of us, we should recognize the two main points that we are the traces of creation, and I should ask myself, am I thinking about what I'm doing? I'm just doing, and go through the day and see how this is happening, and see if there's any little change you can make to make it better. Mitzvah Hashem, with the schutz of our learning, should help more good in Eretz Yisrael, and more people should be freed and come back. Mitzvah Hashem, all safely. Thank you very much. Have an amazing day.